I'll never forget the night those words left her lips. We were sitting at the kitchen table, the soft hum of the refrigerator filling the silence between us. I had asked her where she saw us in 5 years, just a harmless question about our future. She didn't hesitate. She just looked at me, her eyes flat, and said, "You were my last option, David. And now I want to explore what else is out there." It felt like a punch to the chest. For years, I thought our marriage was built on love, shared struggles, and quiet victories. I thought choosing each other had been mutual, a bond of partnership. But in that moment, it became painfully clear. To her, I was a placeholder. A safe bet. The man she settled for when life didn't give her what she really wanted. Hannah and I met in our late 20s. She was vibrant, the kind of woman who could light up a room without trying. I was steady, reliable, the one who listened more than I spoke. She once told me that my calmness made her feel secure, that being with me was like coming home after a storm. I carried those words in my chest like a treasure. But now, hearing her call me her last option, I realized that security to her wasn't love, it was convenience. I replayed our past in my mind, combing through every memory for signs I had missed. The way she used to compare me to her exes with a faint smile, saying things like, "At least you don't cheat," or "You're not exciting but you're dependable." At the time, I brushed it off as her way of teasing. But now it was clear. She had been reminding me all along that I wasn't her first choice. And then there was the second part of her confession. The part that cut even deeper. I want to explore with others. Not just an idle thought, but a declaration. As though our vows were chains she had finally decided to break. She said it casually, almost like asking permission to go on a trip. Meanwhile, I sat there, staring at the woman I married, realizing she saw our marriage as a cage while I had seen it as home. The very next week, I started noticing subtle changes in Olivia's behavior. She would spend long hours scrolling through her phone, smiling at messages she never shared with me. When I asked, she brushed it off as just friends catching up. But the unease in my gut only grew stronger. For years, I had fought to prove myself worthy of her love, and now, after hearing her words, I began to wonder if she had ever truly wanted me at all. One evening, she casually mentioned an old friend from college, Ryan, who had recently moved back to town. She said he was just a friend, someone she could talk to about things I wouldn't understand. The way she said it felt like a dagger, like I was already excluded from parts of her world. I told myself not to jump to conclusions, but deep down, the seed of doubt had already been planted. The cracks widened quickly. She stopped caring about dinners together, stopped reaching for my hand, stopped asking about my day. Yet strangely, she seemed more vibrant, more alive, like a woman rediscovering her freedom. And I was left in the shadows, realizing that my marriage had quietly slipped into a state where I was no longer her partner, but her safety net. The breaking point came one Friday night. Olivia dressed up more than usual, claiming she was going out with the girls. I didn't question her, though my heart was already heavy with suspicion. Hours later, I saw her tagged in a photo online, not with girlfriends but with Ryan. They were laughing, her hand resting lightly on his arm, her smile wide and carefree in a way I hadn't seen in years. When she came home past midnight, the scent of another man's cologne clinging to her clothes, I didn't explode. I didn't accuse. I simply looked at her and said, "I see you've already made your choice." She froze, eyes wide, before mumbling excuses. But the truth was already out in the open, undeniable and sharp. That night, I slept on the couch, staring at the ceiling, realizing the bitter irony. I had been her last option, and now, she was openly exploring the others she once kept hidden. The next morning, Olivia tried to act as though nothing had happened. She made coffee, hummed softly, and avoided eye contact. But I wasn't the same man anymore. Something inside me had shifted. For years, I had begged for her attention, craved her love, and endured the sting of rejection. But that part of me was gone. In its place stood a man who finally understood his worth. I quietly began pulling away. I stopped asking where she was going, stopped waiting up for her, stopped caring when her phone lit up at night. Instead, I focused on myself. I picked up old hobbies, spent time with friends I had neglected, and even started going to the gym again. And the more I invested in myself, the more Olivia seemed to unravel. At first, she was thrilled with her new freedom, but soon, Ryan's attention began to fade. He wasn't interested in a long-term relationship. He was just looking for excitement. The moment things became serious, he backed off. Olivia came home one night with tears streaming down her face, muttering about how men are all the same. But when her eyes met mine, she saw something that terrified her: indifference. For the first time, I wasn't there to comfort her. I wasn't there to reassure her that she was loved no matter what. I simply nodded and went back to reading my book. She begged me to talk, to fight, to show her that I still cared. But I didn't. I had already let go. Weeks later, she tried to reclaim what she had lost. She started cooking my favorite meals, dressing up, and even sending long, emotional messages about how she had made a mistake. But by then, karma had already done its work. She had shown me the truth, that I was never her first choice, only her backup plan. And now, I was done playing that role. One quiet Sunday morning, I left her a note on the kitchen counter. It read, "I hope you find the life you're searching for, but I won't be here to wait for it." I packed my bags, walked out the door, and didn't look back. In the end, Olivia got exactly what she had asked for: the freedom to explore. But she never expected that freedom would cost her the one man who stood by her through everything. And as for me, I finally understood the power of walking away, because sometimes, the sweetest revenge is living a life untouched by the people who once took you for granted.